When Mike Hazelriggs did his podcast episode about participating in the 10,000-mile Hoga Hay motorcycle challenge, he brought Kathy Stevens with him, his fiancée, a woman who had thought breast cancer was behind her and is now facing metastatic disease. He didn't think Kathy was going to talk, but boy, talk she did. And she not only shared her experience with what it means to think you've got cancer beat and then find out you're going to have to fight it again, but also her battle with the insurance companies and how she made sure that they paid the bills that they should have. She has great advice for anyone who's battling breast cancer, battling any kind of disease, and having to fight insurance companies. When you subscribe to our show, you help us grow. Someone you know may need to hear this story, so please share with your family and friends. And consider supporting our mission. Your donation can help save the life of an uninsured woman. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. Thank you so much, Kathy, for being with us here today, and I am very, very interested in hearing your story and all about your diagnosis and your breast cancer experience and the things that you've learned along the way. So, how old were you when you were diagnosed?
I was 46.
How'd you find it?
Actually, I had a deformity with my nipple area, and my doctor said that we should wait a year and see if anything changed. And by the time I went back a year later, it had already grown to 10 centimeters. So,
whoa,
it was shocking.
Oh yeah,
we shouldn't have waited, but everything happens for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So,
mm-hmm. And so with that size and where it was, you had surgery. Mastectomy?
I had a double mastectomy. I chose to have a double mastectomy.
Good choice.
And I had radiation and chemotherapy.
Which of those was the hardest?
I think it was the radiation because I have a lot of redheads in my family, and I started burning on the first treatment. And then we found a cream that helped immensely. And they said, well, you shouldn't be burning yet, but I was. So,
well, you're fair skin, and yes. Describe it for some of our listeners who may not even realize that radiation has that effect on some people.
Well, I think that no matter what, they should automatically purchase a cream, and I used Myoderm. I'm not paid by them or anything to say that name, but it worked greatly for me. It took the burn away, and by the time I had all of my treatments, I was physically burnt from my neck down, but it went away after a short period of time.
It's like a really bad sunburn.
It is like a very bad sunburn.
Yeah. And so how long were you in treatment?
I started treatment in 2011, and by the time I had my reconstructive surgery, that was in 2012. So it was, a 2-year process from beginning to end.
So was that when you met Mike, or was it later on?
I met Mike at the very beginning of this journey.
Okay.
We went out for the first time in March of 2011, and we've been together ever since. So I was very lucky.
Did you feel the same way as he did? I mean, did you fall in love with him immediately, or?
The funniest thing, on our first date, we were going to go to dinner and to a movie, and he came to my door with a dozen roses and a 40-pound bag of dog food for my bulldog.
Oh, my goodness. Now, that would get to any woman's heart.
It did.
Yes.
It did. And it's funny because he was a motorcycle rider, and I wasn't super well versed with the motorcycle community, and a lot of times they would wear a head covering, and you would think that they had hair, but they didn't once they took their head covering off. So I was so thrilled that he had the most gorgeous hair, and I was very lucky.
So you're already in chemo before you know it, losing hair.
Yes.
And were you uncomfortable with him during that time?
I was. I used to think that losing my hair was going to be the worst thing that was going to happen to me. It was very difficult, as a woman, to have to go through that. But that was nothing. Now I realize that was nothing.
And that's a good message for women to hear because it is very, very traumatic.
It is. But I had, many different wigs and head coverings, and it really didn't matter in the end. And this is 2 years of growth right now, so this is not what my hair used to look like.
Oh, I think we're going to have some pictures of you, hopefully, with your hair before. But as you said, there's lots of things that could be worse.
Right, absolutely.
So did you start riding bikes then?
I had a girlfriend that I worked with, and her husband rides, and she rides, and she said, well, why don't you come out with us sometime? And I would ride on the back of her husband's motorcycle, and we just had a great time. I could let all of my tension go when we were on the motorcycles, and it's just very freeing, and I needed that. I had children, 2 boys that were 10 and 12, and each had their own special set of circumstances. So I needed an escape.
Did you ever ride alone? I mean, did you ever master?
I did purchase a motorcycle, and Mike taught me how to ride it. And so now, yes, I can get out there. Unfortunately, it's a three-wheeler, but I'm out there.
You wouldn't find me on a 3-wheeler or any of that. My gosh. And have you taken any long trips with him?
We went on a trip, the Three Sisters, or the Twisted Sisters in Leakey, Texas, and that was a good time for me. And then I have driven my motorcycle at Sturgis. So I didn't ride up there. That's too far. But we did have the bike sent up, and it was a wonderful time. It's so beautiful up there.
So I'm trying to put the dates together. So how many years did you have a time where you were cancer-free?
I had 10 years.
And you weren't worried about it during that time?
No, I was, feeling well, and we were staying busy and doing, fun things, and everything was going along great.
And then when did you find out about the reoccurrence?
I was diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer, stage 4, in September of 2021.
Mm. And what at that time, were we still in those restricted times of COVID, or
no? I mean, it was lessening. It wasn't as severe, but I mean, it still existed. I just had to be careful.
So did Mike go with you on most of your appointments?
He used to. I've tried to give him a little bit more freedom and not have to be there with me all the time. He takes me to all of my surgeries, and if there's a big test or possible bad outcome, he will go with me.
Yeah. So you had to have the same amount of treatment, or what happened after you found out?
They couldn't figure out why my cancer numbers were climbing because it wasn't anything typical. So my oncologist...
You didn't find something else?
No.
You were back at a regular checkup?
I was just at my regular oncology visit, every 6 months, and she was concerned because my numbers weren't looking that great. So she said that my gallbladder was not functioning and that it was dying. And so she said, let's get that out and see what happens next. But then when they were inside removing the gallbladder, they saw that the cancer was on top of my organs in my peritoneal cavity. And she yelled at me when I went back to see her. She goes, can't you have anything normal?
Well, obviously not.
No. So So that's how we found out.
How did you deal with that?
This time has been much more difficult, of course, because if anyone, we're all living on borrowed time, and everyone passes away at some point. But when you're told that it's not curable, that we're just going to try to do the best we can to make you comfortable toward the end, it really hits you differently than the first diagnosis.
Of course.
And then instead of thinking of fun activities and, your bucket list, you have to start thinking about, I need to write down all of the bank account numbers and all of the passwords, and they need to have these documents available. And so that your planning becomes laser focused on another avenue.
Did you find yourself writing to your sons or your children?
Yes, I try to, spend as much time with them as I can. One lives out of town, so my fatigue is extreme right now, and I used to be a real go-getter, and but my energy level is compromised.
And that's one of the other hardest things to deal with, because you want to do things.
Right.
And the body just isn't cooperating.
And, all the doctor appointments, I was having, up to 4 doctor appointments a week for all the different things related to this diagnosis. So I'm busier right now with this schedule.
So how much do you depend on Mike now?
A lot.
And describe how that is. I mean, is it just having him come in? Is it the things he says to you? Is it?
It's a combination. It's just, I just need to know that he's there. If I need him, I don't want to overwhelm him, because it's difficult for your caregivers.
Oh, yeah.
My family had a hard time accepting it in the beginning. They didn't understand what the process is for this stage. And he's been my rock.
But that would be so hard to tell your family.
It was.
I mean, that's just not something anyone is ready for.
It was. I dreaded telling my children. So.
And you had to tell them together, one at a time?
We told them together. And they've taken it well. So.
Well, as well as they could, and
Right.
probably in front of you. Yeah, I think that's something none of us know how to handle, and we never know what to say. We don't know how to be supportive with others at that time, especially such a vulnerable time for you.
I think, talking about supportive, I think that everyone that does not have cancer needs to know, please say something to the people with cancer. A lot of times they'll say, well, I didn't know what to say, and it was awkward, and it was, difficult. But we want to feel included in things. And a lot of times we're excluded because, well, I didn't know if you were feeling well enough, or...
That's a really important point. I've heard that so many times.
Yes, it's very important. And they said, well, I didn't want to bother you. Please bother us.
Yes.
Because it helps us mentally, fight like a girl.
Oh, absolutely. Well, no one likes to be excluded for
Right.
anything. But
Right.
when you're dealing with that on top of feeling like you're being left out, then
Right.
what
Our
a
lives
tough time.
stop, or they change direction. And everyone else, I recall going to lunch with a group of friends, and they were talking about going to Christmas parties and what they were doing for the weekend, and, all these fun activities. And I was angry because my life had stalled and they were still moving forward. And that's another thing that's difficult for cancer patients. You have a new sense of what your reality is, and sometimes it's difficult to swallow, but you just have to keep pushing forward.
And did you have any therapy help at that time?
I did not.
Okay.
I did not.
Did
My
you
therapy
take it out
was the
on Mike?
motorcycle.
Oh, well, that's good to know. That's good to know. So how did you feel when he started talking about this ride that he's about to do?
I was concerned. 10,000 miles is a very long process, but I know he's a skilled rider, and I trust him. Plus, his very best friend is going with him. He was also, approved to participate. Mm-hmm. But I'm hoping that I can get to Alaska when he crosses the finish line.
Oh, that would be great.
Yes.
That would be really great.
Yes.
And he's, believe me, at the Rose, we are so, so grateful that he's doing this and has named the Rose as his charity of choice. That means so much.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Kathy, when we're talking about this ride that Mike is making, tell us what it's all about.
He will be participating in the Hoka Challenge for 2024.
And this is a challenge that is only available to very experienced riders, or?
Well, they prefer that it be experienced riders. And you choose a charity, and Mike has chosen the Rose to be the beneficiary of donations for this challenge. He should hope to complete the challenge within 2 weeks. It'll start in Florida and end in Alaska. And it's going to be grueling, but it's doable. And he will be participating with his best friend. And he has already met his goal for donations, but we want to get as many more as possible for the Rose.
So he still has 10,000 miles to go, right?
Yes.
I mean, still has that much.
Yes. So, and he's very excited about participating.
Oh, we're delighted that he's doing this. I mean, I know it's going to be grueling, but oh my gosh, the impact that those funds are going to have on the women we serve. We really appreciate both of you for considering the Rose.
Yes, ma'am.
I've heard you say things like, it's okay to be upset. We need to have support. Don't leave us out. The times you were angry, the times you were, that you just didn't know. And you've said so many things. What other message would you want to share with a caregiver or a woman who's facing metastatic breast cancer?
I would say don't rush to pay invoices that you receive for your care, because sometimes they have not been approved by your insurance company as yet and have to be researched. So just because you receive a bill for $300 balance due does not mean that you owe that amount. Make certain that someone else is helping you look at the bills and, compare your EOBs, because getting your money back if you make an overpayment is sometimes difficult.
Absolutely. And EOB is an explanation of benefits.
Correct.
And Kathy, you're the very first one I've ever heard say, this is one of the things you need to be aware of.
Yes.
It is so true.
Yes.
Because there's so many times when you can appeal, or your doctor can say, no, this was absolutely needed. And miscodings. Oh my gosh, what great advice. It's kind of hard to do when you're dealing with so much else. But
right.
Like you said, have someone help you and go through it.
I would say keep your core group close. The people that helped me the most during my first journey were not the people that I expected to help. It actually wasn't even family, but that was for my father was very ill. My mother had open heart surgery. My sister was taking care of a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old and my parents. So it wasn't possible for them. And I am so thankful that I had Mike and my other friends that, I had a girlfriend that took me to every chemo session. Oh. And who does that?
Right.
Right. And Mike came into my life and said, I can do this as a caregiver or as a boyfriend, and I chose B, a boyfriend. And he has...
A good choice.
Definitely.
One you have not regretted, right?
I have not regretted it.
Yeah.
I have not. So...
Well, we are so delighted to have you here today. And
thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And wish you all the luck. And, we've had a lot of women that outdo all the odds.
Right.
And I can tell you're going to be one of those because
I
you've got
hope
too
so.
much else to do.
I hope so. I do.
Yes, you do. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.